chunky peanut butter. It's always worth it. My tongue sticking to the roof of my mouth. My middle child called Dr. Pepper the barbecue of soda, and I can't unhear that now. Somehow I feel like if I'm not eating on camera during this video, I'm doing something wrong. Today we are discussing Woman Eating by Khoda. A vampire story. It's listed usually under the horror sections in many stores. However, if you're going into this expecting, you know, nonstop blood and gore, chills and thrills, this is not that kind of book, and it's wonderful. This is the story of Lydia, is an artist just out of college, trying to find herself. The only complication is that she is a vampire. You spend the majority of the book living in Lyd's head over the course of about a week or two. However, I knew going into this book it was a little bit more introspective, a little bit more of a slow burn. If I had not known that about this book going in, I might have been slightly disappointed. I love it. First, it deals with the fact that Lydia comes from multi-ethnic family background. She deals with the self-consciousness of being all these things and not knowing enough or feeling like she doesn't know enough about the various cultural background or aspects of her family and her life. Because she is part vampire, her mother has kept her very sheltered and in a very structured home where she is taught to devalue herself because she is a vampire. Her mother raises her to believe that her demon half is evil and therefore doesn't deserve the things in life that normally, you know, a human being would. And then of course, to make the story more relatable to perhaps people who do not have those various cultural connections or backgrounds or aspects, there is then the metaphor laid on top of that of her being part vampire and part human. Not a mystery to be solved in this book. That is not, the question isn't like, well, how does a vampire and a human have a child? That's just a given in this book. It's not up for debate. It's not the question to be answered. And that gets us to the title of the book, Woman Eating. Lydia spends this entire book hungry. Yeah. Because Lydia has just moved out on her own, she no longer has her mother supplying her with pig's blood, and she's trying to figure out how to eat on her own. She's had to put her mother in a home, which is something she was never expecting to have to do since her mother is a vampire. There's a lot of layers to the food allegory in this book. A lot of ways you can look at it is anorexia, because in some aspects, there are times in this book where Lydia is purposefully starving herself. She's trying to be more human, or she's trying to find ways of surviving without living off of her vampire aspects. And then there's other times where the metaphor or the allegory is more about food access, living in a society that does not value or prioritize access to nutritious foods for people. It's extremely hard for Lydia to find a source for food. She's in London, and so it's, you know, it's health laws and regulations that are keeping her from being able to buy, you know, just straight out buy animal blood. It's kind of where the metaphor falls apart a little. There's also, I guess there should be, I mean, possibly a content warning for this book. It's horror. There's certain tropes of horror that are always going to be there for most books. So a lot of people going into horror know that sexual assault, that is true in this book. Sexual harassment type of level, but technically it goes to the assault level, but it's such a casual cultural thing that happens to women from all walks of life that when it happens and her thought process and trying to decide, is this a big deal? Should I make it a big deal? You know, should I just say anything about it? No, I'm not going to say anything about it. I feel like pretty much a lot of people have been there. And of course, it leads to the fantastic ending of this book, which like, I mean, she's a vampire. You're hoping beyond hope that this is where the book is gonna lead. Leads straight to the ending. This book spends about 90% of the time just in that introspective, in her head, not much is happening. She's dissecting every second of her life, taking it apart, putting it back together, and trying to decide, am I good? Am I evil? Do I deserve things? Do I not? Should I eat? It is just an absolutely fast-paced sprint to the end once she finally eats. Spoiler warning. I mean, if you don't want to know the end of this book, but I feel like, just the title of this book, where it's going to end up. Once she finally eats, it is everything, and you just feel empowered for Lydia. And I just got this huge rush of joy reading about her eating. Final decisions she makes and what that means with her relationship with her mother. And the most terrifying parts of the book are the parts that make you feel the most empowered. And that's really awesome. I feel like the author Claire Khoda did a really good job of explaining the cultural touchstones of food, what food means in various regions or countries. Food means so much in Japan. Soybeans thrown out of temples in February to tempt out demons before coming of spring bring the eater prosperity and luck. Sushi rolls eaten facing a specific direction, decided each year, bring luck and fortune to the eater. Soba noodles consumed at New Year help time progress, connecting one year to the next. When the noodles snap, the eater can move on from bad events from the last year. In China, too, long noodles consumed at New Year grant the eater a long life. In Korea, when rice cake soup is eaten at New Year, every Korean ages a year together in unison, because Lydia is trying to figure out, am I more demon? Am I more human? Am I more British? Am I more Japanese? Like, what she's trying to figure all these things out, she has become obsessed with human foods that she cannot eat. Another great quote from the book is, "My tongue rests against my bottom teeth. You should eat," a voice says in my head. No, right then, something's about to happen. They're pretty awesome. So as far as my rating goes, I gave Woman Eating a 4 out of 5 because it does kind of slog a little bit, especially the parts where she's at her internship at this art gallery. Art gallery kind of feels very empty, which I think is extremely purposeful. Then, of course, there's her relationship with a puppet. Yes, a puppet. I loved it because it makes you feel, if you've ever had like a stuffy in your life that you've loved to death, that you could almost imagine what it's saying to you in real life, or that you've had pretend conversations with, it kind of makes sense there about her using the puppet to find her identity. Going back and talking about it, it makes me wonder if maybe I was wrong. Maybe it needs 5 out of 5 stars, because I could definitely see rereading this book and finding new things about it that I probably missed. I highly recommend Woman Eating by Claire Khoda. Great book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure that you click the notification bell if there is one that pops up for you, and join us next time when I'm sure we'll have more books to talk about.